When God draws you close, life gets quieter. Let me say this slowly because many of you have been confused by what you're experiencing. Not every quiet season means God is distant. Not every loss of enthusiasm means you are losing faith. Not every sense of loneliness means something is wrong. Sometimes, what feels like separation from people is actually closeness with God. There comes a moment in a believer's life when faith stops being noisy. You don't announce it the way you used to. You don't defend it the way you used to. You don't feel the need to explain your walk to everyone anymore. And that can feel unsettling, because early faith is expressive. It celebrates loudly. It needs confirmation. It feeds on feedback. But mature faith becomes rooted, not reactive. Some of you are in that place right now. The crowd feels distant. The noise doesn't move you anymore. And you've wondered, why does following God feel heavier, deeper, lonelier than it used to? It may not be distance. It may be invitation. God does not draw everyone into depth. Not because he is selective, but because depth requires surrender. And not everyone wants the cost of closeness. 1. You obey without needing God to explain himself. One of the first signs God is drawing you closer is that you stop negotiating. There was a time when your obedience depended on clarity. You wanted details. You wanted timing. You wanted assurance that it would work out. Now, obedience comes before understanding. You still think. You still feel. But you no longer require certainty to remain faithful. This is the kind of trust Abraham had. God did not give him a plan, he gave him a promise. And Abraham moved without a map. Scripture says he went not knowing where he was going. That wasn't recklessness. That was relationship. Friends obey because they trust character, not outcomes. Some of you used to be motivated by visible results. Answered prayers. Open doors. Breakthrough moments. Now, even when nothing changes quickly, something inside you stays steady. You're no longer chasing God's hand. You're resting in his heart. That kind of obedience cannot be taught. It is formed through intimacy. 2. God allows silence without losing you. This is where many people misunderstand what God is doing. They think silence means abandonment. They think quiet means God is displeased. They assume the emotional highs were proof of closeness. But listen carefully, silence is not absence. When faith is immature, God reassures constantly. Signs, feelings, confirmations after confirmations. But when trust deepens, God speaks less. Not because he's distant, but because he knows you'll stay. Friends don't need constant explanation. Some of you are in a season where heaven feels quiet. No new instructions. No dramatic moments. No emotional intensity. And yet, you haven't walked away. You're still praying. Still obeying. Still waiting. That is not weakness. That is maturity. God trusted Abraham with years of silence. Joseph with silence in prison. Jesus with silence on the cross. Silence reveals motive. Servants need instructions. Friends understand direction even when words stop. If you're still faithful without constant reassurance, God knows he can trust you with quiet. 3. Your faith has become more private than public. At some point, you stop trying to look spiritual. You don't need to sound deep. You don't need to be seen. You don't need validation. Your convictions become quieter, but stronger. God starts dealing with you in private places. Your obedience happens when no one is watching. Your battles are internal, not performative. This is where many believers get uncomfortable, because public faith is easier to manage than private integrity. David learned to worship alone before he ruled publicly. Moses was shaped in obscurity before he led nations. Jesus lived unseen for 30 years before being revealed. God always works in secret before he works in significance. If your faith feels hidden right now, it's not being wasted. It's being rooted. For God corrects you gently and precisely. When intimacy grows, correction changes. God no longer waits for disaster to redirect you. He corrects you early, quietly, personally. A thought, a hesitation, a loss of peace, and you respond. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is closeness. David said his heart convicted him. Peter wept after a look from Jesus, not a sermon. God corrects those he trusts with precision. You're being shaped before things break. That's not restriction. That's protection. 5. You let God defend you. There was a time when being misunderstood unsettled you deeply. You rehearsed conversations. You tried to fix perceptions. You felt compelled to explain yourself. Now you rest. Not because you don't care, but because you trust God to speak for you. You've learned that peace matters more than being right. That silence can be obedience. That not everyone deserves access to your heart. When God becomes your defender, explanations become unnecessary. That kind of stillness is not passivity. It is confidence. Closing reflection. If your faith feels quieter but deeper, if obedience feels natural rather than forced, if you feel less understood by people but more anchored in God, you are not drifting. You are being drawn close. Friendship with God will cost you noise. It will cost you applause. It will cost you familiarity. But it will give you something greater: presence, clarity, and unshakable trust. God does not invite everyone into this depth. Not because He loves some more, but because not everyone wants the weight of intimacy. Friends of God are not chosen for perfection. They are chosen for surrender. And if God is drawing you here, the quiet is not loss. It is communion.